The following may contain language that is not suitable for all audiences. All right, it's time for the Low Fat Podcast.
No bell today?
You can do a bell if you want.
Okay. It rings for a while.
That's enough.
You ruined it.
Matt and Dave here. Kind of to continue what we were talking about yesterday. Well, can you succinctly summarize the topic or the thing that you wanted to talk about a little bit?
Well, you started out talking about how pundits wanted to...
That's the subject we already covered. I'm talking about the new one.
Well, the topic I want to talk about, and I don't have too much to say about it, but I just find it funny that this week in the media, all of a sudden, the coronavirus, or COVID, or whatever you want to call it, which they haven't been talking about, all of a sudden it's rampant and it's everywhere.
Where you been? They've always covered it. They've put more time on the coronavirus than they did on Hunter Biden's laptop controversy.
But it's really the whole time?
Yes.
So they've been talking about spiking for a while.
They've been talking about coronavirus every day, and then yes, spiking has been in the news a little bit, and then
why is it spiking in battleground states?
Well, because the battleground states are full of people that are idiots, right? That don't have mandates and don't stay inside. But my point...
Do you think it's really spiking?
I find it... Okay, I don't know.
It's almost impossible. You know what? That's a stupid question.
I don't know if it's spiking or not, but I just find it funny how no matter what you do, it doesn't go away.
Well, it didn't go away in New Zealand where they shut down the borders.
I think they're supposed to do that in Australia too. But my point is, what is it supposed to do? Everybody's supposed to, someone's like, oh, lock down for 6 weeks like they did in China. And I know they were kind of kidding, but I'm sitting there going, yeah, go for it. Lock everything down. Don't let anybody out of their house ever for 6 weeks. That includes the people like delivering food, whatnot. Everybody stay at home. Somebody come to attack you, you can kill them. Fuck it.
Well, I have a friend in Australia that just spent 12 weeks in her house. And apparently Australia is just a shit show right now. But
the reactions to the coronavirus really kind of brought to you by the internet, which I'm not really a big fan. Let me roll that back. It's not that I'm not a big fan of the internet, but basically everything that we're doing is kind of been the groundwork has been laid, over the last decade. And I think that there's going to be a shift in how people make money. And I hope there's going to be a shift on where people live.
Really?
Well, people are sitting there saying, this has shown that you can do work remotely. And I'm sitting there going, well, it depends on the kind of work you're doing. But yeah, let's say all the stockbrokers and lawyers and customer service reps and whatnot. Let's say that you don't need to be at a call center. You can just be at home if you have a decent enough internet connection, you can just be at home and do your thing, right? Mm-hmm. Well, that means you can live anywhere.
This is true.
And, if that means you can, and then that means cities are not unnecessary. Urban centers are unnecessary. And to me, one of the biggest, I'm chuckling because I'm about to say that I think urban centers are really, really bad and unnatural. And I happen to live in one. So
a giant one.
So, ha ha ha, right? But I do think that living, for some reason, when lots and lots and lots of people congregate, we turn into a bunch of stark raving idiots. And, I know people want to say this and that and, oh, you're wrong. But to go back on what I was talking about many times, and I call myself like the world's biggest loser, I say that a little tongue in cheek, but I also mean it. Professionally, romantically, basically, if you took a snapshot of my life every day for the last decade or so, you'd sit there and say, that guy's a loser. And it's true. And it's true. I'm an objective loser. Professionally, I ain't got dick going on. What else? Romantically, you find more water in the Sahara. than you would, people romantically interested in me. People sit there and ask me, well, you need to go do something. You need to go get it. And I'm like, how am I going to make fire in the water? Is one of my expressions. And, people think that I'm anti-gay. I'm not anti-gay. I'm just not gay. And the reason I'm not gay is I don't need the other sex to sit there and say, no, I don't want to be with you. It's bad enough that all the women say that. I don't need the men and the women, But, all kidding aside, practically speaking, I'm a big fat zero. No doubt about it. And I know I'm changing the subject here a little bit because this was also a topic that I kind of wanted to talk about, because I was like, the question was, why do people think so highly of themselves? And it's a question that I can't answer. And using myself as an example, take my word for it, I'm big fat zero. Even I think really highly of myself. So it's not like I'm sitting here going, why are all you idiots out there thinking y'all so great? No, I'm including myself in this because, like I said, I think pretty highly of myself, and I'm a big fat donut. So, let's say you got a job and a wife or a husband, let's say you got a job, a significant other, and you're like, you're like making coin. And you're self-sufficient. I mean, okay, so you think highly of yourself. That's kind of expected. I got none of those things. I still probably think as highly of myself as someone who's got all kinds of junk going on. In fact, I bet I think as highly of myself as frickin' Mark Zuckerberg. And, that's something I kind of thought about, and I'm just like, wow, why do we think so highly of ourselves?
It must just be like hard word.
It could, well, it's got to be if everybody does it. And, if I do it, everybody does it, right?
I don't know. I guess it's just part of us. I don't know.
I'm drinking the world's nastiest water with the world's nastiest ice in it.
Yeah, courtesy of me.
Yeah.
The world's worst host.
You say that tongue in cheek, but it's true. You are the world's worst host.
Man, way to kick a man when he's down.
Well, if you never get up, then I can kick you when you're standing up. But if you're going to stay down, it doesn't mean I'm not going to stop kicking you. That's another thing people are like, that's another thing. Why are people like, okay, so a man's down. Why shouldn't you kick him? Isn't that the best time to kick a guy?
That's just mean.
Anyway. So yeah, I guess that's just a couple of questions. What is the other thing? Oh yeah. Oh, and the whole lockdown thing. I don't know that those work. And if they do, I don't think they work as well as people think. I mean, because it seems to me the only way that you can really do it is if you just make everyone stay indoors. And when I say everyone, I mean everyone. There's no deliveries. There's no food. No nothing.
Then you'd die in your house.
Well, I kind of think that that's what the powers that be want. It's just like take away the middleman. I mean, it's indelicate to sit there and say, well, let's line everybody up and march them to a gas chamber.
See,
so without doing that, let's see what we can do to get most of them to be eliminated.
See,
Civil war. I mean, come on. And also, why is it that the richest people in this country are sitting there talking about the most progressive, left-leaning, backward stuff? Well, backward being it doesn't make sense. How will somebody with so much money sit there and say, we need to have communism?
That makes no sense.
Right. So don't you think that the whole purpose is to get everybody, the pigs, sheep, and goats, which is the class that I'm in? And in case you're wondering what class you're in, if you're not one of the higher ups, then you're in my class. So yeah.
So you're something that gets eaten.
Yeah. So basically you're probably the 98% of the people walking around.
See, I don't get how New Zealand shut down. They had the borders closed down.
Well, you didn't listen to a thing I said. You've just been waiting to say what you want, but that's okay.
And then they opened up again, and they still had cases. So I'm like, why even close?
Well, yeah, that's kind of a question too, right? So
how did it get into New Zealand first? Did it come on a package?
Well,
was it already there? Was it just waiting to kind of like reemerge? I don't know.
These are questions that nobody will answer.
And now in New Zealand, they're talking about, because everybody's trying to go home. Everybody goes home for Christmas in New Zealand.
Nope, you're not coming in.
You're not coming in.
Good.
You're not coming back. Everyone's like, what am I going to do?
You got to sit in whatever hellhole.
Plus, the airline is fucking on the rocks anyway in New Zealand. So
well, I think all of them
might not have an airline.
I think all the airlines. I think I read somewhere many, many months ago that British Airways was like packing up their 747 fleet. And when I say packing up, they're just parking them.
Well, New Zealand I think the government gave Air New Zealand $1 billion, and they still laid off like everybody.
$1 billion New Zealand dollars?
Yes.
Or So that's about like what, $15 US?
I don't know. It's probably about $300 or $400 million. But I don't think that lasts very long with an airline.
I don't think that lasts very long in New Zealand, right? Don't you guys? Isn't your minimum wage like $30 an hour?
It's pretty fucking high.
And isn't gas like $25 a gallon?
Yes.
So why bother getting paid $30 an hour when you have to like pay $30 a gallon for gas?
It's like they're killing everything. They've killed the tourism industry. You can't go into the country. You can't leave. Yeah. I'm like, what is going to happen in New Zealand? It's scary.
Well, lucky for me that only one of us really cares about New Zealand here.
Yeah. I do care about New Zealand, but...
Didn't I just say that? Only one of us here cares about New Zealand?
Yeah. You don't care?
Very little. I don't care about New Zealand as much as I care about, Georgia.
Oh, yeah.
The state of, not the country. Or Tennessee.
That's fair.
Or Missouri.
Fair.
Or Ohio, for that matter.
Ohio, come on, New Zealand beats Ohio.
Illinois. I'm just rattling off the states that I've lived in.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. It's so because I have plenty of friends who are like, if we'd only shut down, like worn masks and stayed in our houses and they always talk about this 4-week thing, and I'm like, well, but everybody did do that here in California. I mean, people stayed in their house for 12 weeks here in California. Well,
that's the whole thing that happens if something doesn't work. Oh, you just didn't do it enough, and that reminds me of the and I think that's the religiosity of us coming into play, because we make fun of the people that sit there and go to faith healers to cure cancer, and when it doesn't work, the people sitting there saying, "Oh, it's just you didn't believe hard enough," and the people that don't believe it are like, it's because it's stupid. How can you believe that BS? But when it's the BS we believe in, then it makes perfect sense. And I don't know. Maybe you should have done it. Maybe an extreme lockdown is in order. And if New Zealand wants to try it, I'm sure the rest of the world will wait and see.
They already did it.
No, I mean a real one where nobody can leave anywhere. And if you happen to starve to death because you don't have enough food for 4 weeks, too bad.
I mean, I heard that for people that refuse to get tested now, that they're talking about setting up camps in New Zealand.
Yeah, and
having the people that refuse testing go to the camps.
Yeah, and if that doesn't make you sit there and go, then
things that make you go,
then it just reinforces my whole thing about fear, right? Because when death's 1,000 miles away, like, I'm not scared of death, bring it on. And when death goes, I'm here, all of a sudden you're, crapping your pants going, I didn't say that, it was my neighbor. So, so much for well-oiled society. Oh, you don't want to do what all the scared people say you should do? Then we should put you in a camp. These are probably the same people who sit there and say, I don't understand how the Nazis got in power.
And I don't know if it's true, the camp thing. It's just something I saw on Twitter.
Oh, dude, in France, they're not letting you go anywhere unless you've got your papers.
Oh, wasn't there like a giant, people were trying to get out and they couldn't?
Yes, because they didn't have their papers.
Oh.
You don't have your proof of where you're able to go somewhere, or your proof of immunization, or your proof or whatever. And I'm just sitting there going,
sounds like an elite thing.
What? I don't think it's just an elite thing.
But I bet you the elites are going wherever they like.
Well, of course they are, because the rules don't apply to them. And that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying all the time. Everybody, and that includes anybody listening, so they're going, I don't understand how the Nazis, the commies could have done that, could have taken over. You know why? It's because of people like you. And when I say people like you, I include myself in that list. You got freaked out, and you're just like, oh, I'll do anything. I'll do anything. Kill my neighbor? Fine. Just spare me. So, and this is what I want to talk about next time. Your whole idea that people are noble and great.